Classification of the monosaccharides. Monosaccharide is classified as the aldose and ketose, with the basis kung what type of carbonyl group is present. So, if it is aldose, na-contain niya in aldehyde functional group, ngan usaya nga polyhydroxyaldehydes. Aldehydes kay tungod na ang carbonyl group is naka-attach nga duha hydrogen atom. Kung usa liwat nga ketose, na-contain liwat yahin ketone functional group. So, usaya nga polyhydroxyketones, which is carbonyl group attached to 2 carbon atoms. So, monosaccharide is classified by both their numbers of atoms ngan ira functional group. Like for example, kung 6 carbon monosaccharide with an aldehyde functional group, usaya nga aldohexose. From aldehyde ngan 6 carbon aldohexose. Biochemically important monosaccharides. Glyceraldehyde and dihydroxyacetone is the simplest of the monosaccharides. So, this is important in process and glycolysis. Glycolysis is the breakdown of carbohydrates such as an glucose na nako-convert into 2 molecules of pyruvate. Pyruvate is usaya nga salt or ester of pyruvic acid. So diglyceraldehyde is usaya nga chiral molecule, while dihydroxyacetone is not chiral. D-glucose is most abundant in nature, and it is most important pa human nutritional. Kay glucose is asyat na gahataga aton in energy para makapag-perform in any activities. Then, ripe fruits are the source of glucose. So, glucose is also known as dextrose ngan blood sugar. So, asya niya ang structure han usa nga glucose. So, galactose is nasynthesize siya from glucose in the mammary glands for use in lactose or milk sugar. So, lactose is the combination hit glucose ng galactose. So, galactose is usaya nga brain sugar. So, it is component of glycoproteins. Glycoproteins are the protein and carbohydrates compounds. So, nakikita niya brain ng mga nerve tissue. It is used para pag-distinguish various types of blood. Like for example, kung type A, kung type B, type AB ngan type O. Galactose ngan glucose is na differ lahan ira configuration han OH group ngan han H group. So they are epimers, meaning the stereomers nga na differ only han ira configuration at one chiral center. Fructose is known as levoluse or fruit sugar. So, nakikita niya in many fruits na present niya honey, which is equal amount with glucose. So, honey nga glucose is may danira the same amount. So, fructose is ginagamit niya para mga dietary sugar. So, structure the glucose ngan fructose is identical. Irala difference is that fructose may presence niya ketone group, while glucose is aldehyde group. So ribose is usaya nga pentose, meaning may daniya 5 carbon sugar. So component usa nga ribose is an RNA or ribonucleic acid, ngan an energy-rich compound such as an ATP or adenosine triphosphate. So, high structure ang glucose is pagtatanggolon mo ang H nga ng OH, magiging usaya nga D-ribose. Cyclic forms of the monosaccharides. So, this picture is the hemiacetal functional group that is present in cyclic forms of a monosaccharide. So, hemiacetal have both an OH group and OR group that is attached to the same carbon atom. Anomeric carbon atom are those hemiacetal carbon atom that is present in cyclic monosaccharide structure. So, adto na mga carbon atom is nabad ha OH group ngan ha oxygen atom in the heterocyclic ring. So, its stereoisomer may daya duduha nga forms, an alpha form and a beta form. Anomers are those that differ only in the position of the substituents on the anomeric. So, as you can see in the picture, they differ in the position pero the same man ira molecule like an oxygen ngan OH. Howard projection formulas. So it is a two-dimensional structural notation that specifies the three-dimensional structure of a cyclic form of monosaccharide. The D and L form is determined by the position of the terminal group, which is the CH2OH. So kung it D form, aniya terminal group is position above the ring, while kung ha L form, it iya terminal group, which is the CH2OH group, is positioned below the ring, like in the picture. While in this picture is an alpha or beta configuration is not determined by the position of the OH group, so they are related with the D and L form. So pag beta, and groups is not point in the same direction, while in the alpha, the group points at the opposite direction. For example, in a picture, so the B and D monosaccharide, then the B and L monosaccharide points at the same direction, while in the A to D monosaccharide is this group points in the opposite direction. Reactions of the monosaccharide. Oxidation to produce acidic sugar. Weak oxidizing agent is the oxidation of aldehyde. And so for example, in a picture is an upper part is the aldehyde. So ang CHO, which is a naka-highlight, is nag-addihin usa nga oxygen. So asya ang glucose is nakaproduce usa nga gluconic acid. So naging COOH ang iya aldehyde. Strong oxidizing agent, it can oxidize both the ends of the monosaccharide at the same time. So for example, in a picture is ang D-glucose, ang iya carbonyl, and ang iya terminal end or an aldehyde is now oxidized, both now oxidized. So it is considered as a strong oxidizing agent. So ang iya na produce ang D-glucose is an glucaric acid. An enzyme's liwat is it can oxidize the primary alcohol and without the oxidation of the aldehyde group. So ang iya laging, for example, in the picture is an other naka-highlight is asyalan iya gin o oxidize. So an upper part, which is the aldehyde group, diri opodhan pag-oxidize. So an oxidation na producehin D-glucuronic acid. Reduction to produce sugar alcohol. So an carbonyl group na present a monosaccharide, it's either an aldose or ketone, can be reduced to a hydroxyl group with the use of hydrogen as a reducing agent. So for example, ang reduction ng D-glucose gives D-glucitol. Glycoside formation. So an acetal formed from a cyclic monosaccharide by the replacement of the hemiacetal carbon OH group with an OR group. So glycoside is produced from glucose, which is the glucoside. Phosphate ester formation. It is formed from the phosphoric acid and various monosaccharides. So, for example, in this picture, specific enzymes in the human body is nakatalysin esterification of the hemiacetal group that has carbon 1 and the primary alcohol group which has carbon 6 in a glucose to produce the compounds which is the glucose 1 phosphate and the glucose 6 phosphate. Amino sugar formation. So if one of the hydroxyl groups of monosaccharide is replaced with amino group, an amino sugar is replaced. So like for instance, ano sang hydroxyl group and monosaccharide is na replace with amino group, asya niyat way para ma-produce an amino sugar. Let's proceed to the disaccharides. So disaccharides are the combination of two monosaccharides that are bonded together. So usang monosaccharide serves as the reactants functions as a hemiacetal, while the other monosaccharides functions as an alcohol. So the monosaccharides and the other monosaccharide is links by the glycosidic linkage. So maltose. Maltose is a malt sugar. So it is produced whenever the polysaccharide starch breaks down. So maltose is usaya nga ingredient para mga baby foods nga nakikita niya mga malted milk. Maltose is made up of 2 D-glucose units. So as you can see in the picture, sa D-glucose unit, then the other 1 D-glucose unit is combined together by the glycosidic linkage. So those 2 monosaccharides that were combined formed a maltose. Next is the cellulose. So it is produced as an intermediate in the hydrolysis of the polycellulose. So cellulose na contain niyan duha nga D-glucose monosaccharides. Pero na-differ hiya maltose kay tungod nga the other one of the D-glucose units function as a hemiacetal. So they must have a beta configuration instead of alpha configuration. So diba kay maltose is may daniya alpha configuration. Meanwhile, cellulose wala niya alpha configuration. Kundi iya ginagamit is an beta configuration. Lactose is the combination of both maltose and cellulose. So the monosaccharides unit that is present are identical, the 2 glucose units. So lactose is made up of a beta D-galactose unit and a D-glucose that is joined by a beta glycosidic linkage. So lactose is considered as a milk sugar. So importante hiya nga ingredient para makapag-produce han mga infant formulas to stimulate the mother's milk. And lastly is the sucrose. It is known as table sugar. So sucrose is most abundant of all disaccharides and nakikita niya mga plants. So it is produced from a juice of sugarcane nga mga sugar beets. So sucrose may 2 monosaccharides. Ang duha nga monosaccharides na present D-sucrose molecule are those that alpha D-glucose and beta D-fructose. So meaning sucrose is the combination of the glucose and the fructose.